Hello, everybody. Just adding Ma'am Siti Kutezi. Hi, Mrs. Pretorius. Hey, Mr. Silman. Hey, Mr. Tikutezi.
Hi, Mr. Out.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, sir?
Good, good. How's the weather down in Cape Town?
Yesterday it was summer. Today it's winter. It's very cold today. Very cold. And how's Joburg?
No, Joburg's good, eh? In winter, it's cold at night, but during the day the sun's out and it's good.
Nice, nice. Kyk
Hi,
vir Miller.
ma'am Terry.
Daar's
Kijk,
Miller.
that's Muller. Yeah, hello, Muller.
Ja, Poppy is ook op.
Hello, Miss Pretorius.
Hi, Labby.
Mrs. Pretorius is coming to check if her staff are okay. Okay, it's 14 minutes past. We'll start it
Quarter
at
past.
quarter past. Hey, Miss Libby. The whole Dizer.
The whole
Dizer's
family is
watching.
here.
Yeah. But didn't you guys have a PD today?
No, it was only foundation phase.
Yeah, okay. I was just about to say, now you're getting the Dizer people's getting PD twice today.
No, Miller nie, Miller niks Afrikaans asseblief.
Okay, let's get started. It's quarter past. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. So this is very new to me, and I'm sure Mr. Tikutezi as well. So you guys would know I started this group about 2 weeks ago, and the purpose of this group is twofold. It's to share classroom management and leadership strategies with the goal of developing novice teachers and leaders. You know, I feel like sometimes we become teachers and we become leaders, and then we don't know how, you know, and we struggle, and we're not totally prepared for it. So this platform is for that. Hello, Mrs. Africa Carlos, the boss.
Hi, boss lady.
And then I just want to say, like, over the years and doing professional development around classroom management strategies, I find sometimes that teachers get very bored with professional development. And there's this thought that a professional development session and a strategy teaching session should fix your classroom management issues. But that's not the case. Fixing your classroom management issues is making sure that you are able to accumulate all the skills in order to use them at the right time, regardless how small or insignificant they may be. There is no magic wand. There is no muti. There is no medicine that's going to fix that. So let's get started, and let's meet Mr. Tikutezi. I know a lot of people that's live now watching us, or people that know both of us. I see Dion also joined us. And I know Dion was one of your mentors, Ms. Sitikutezi,
Yep.
at the start of your career. So let's start off. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? When did you start teaching? What subjects are you currently teaching? And what are the types of communities that you're currently working in?
Hi everybody. I see my brother is also watching. Hi, big bro. Okay, so I'm Yanela Situkutezi, 27 years of age, with a 4-year-old daughter whom I adore a lot. I studied at CPUT for bachelor's degrees in education. I have been teaching for 5 years now. I'm teaching grade 6, history, life skills, mathematics, and Afrikaans eerste addisionele taal. So I teach in a community that's very vulnerable and with learners that's facing challenges, challenging situations on a daily basis. So it is kind of tough in the community that I currently work in. Yep.
Yeah. And why did you choose to become a teacher, and why do you choose to work in vulnerable vulnerable communities like you do?
So I've always loved working around kids and being around kids. So I remember growing up, my mom's yard would be full of kids and we would play school, and I would always be the teacher. So I guess that was probably a sign that I would one day become a teacher. Also, in my school years, I have had some really great teachers that also influenced the career choice. But most importantly, it was really the passion that I have for children and making a difference. And I guess going into the vulnerable communities, it's just to make that difference, because that is where I feel that the impact will be greater in going into those communities and making a difference in those communities. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think the narrative that we hear and we see on social media is that, you know what, it's harder to teach in what we call vulnerable communities, and that to manage the learners are quite hard. How have you found being able to manage learner behavior over the last couple of years as you've developed your skills in terms of classroom management?
So I must say it wasn't easy. I became interested in actually wanting to have those management skills in my first day of teaching. I remember there was this one class that I just couldn't teach. Whenever I walked into that class, they would be dragging chairs. Some of them would be shouting at each other. Some of them would even walk out of the class. I would feel so miserable. And I remember just standing in front of me. And then there was just one question that I asked myself: what was it that my teachers were doing that I'm not doing? And that is where it took a turn from there, because I wanted to be in that class. I wanted to be with those learners. I wanted to teach them, but the behavior in the class was not allowing me to do that. So I had to change the way of thinking and think in a different way in order to actually be able to stand in front of those kids and teaching and learning could take place. And the following year, I had that very same class, and I can tell you now, we did wonders with that very same class. Yeah.
So the specific classroom management strategy we're talking about today is called Narrate the Positive, or positive narration. Do you want to tell us what positive narration is?
So basically, positive narration is the act of focusing what the learners are doing correctly instead of focusing on what they're doing wrong. So that basically is openly saying those things out loud to actually motivate those that are off task or that are doing the wrong thing to actually do the right thing. Because in most cases, learners do want to be praised and they do want to be recognized. So by you, instead of looking at that one child who's probably not doing their work and say, why are you not doing your work? Try and say, I like how Javen is on task and doing his work. Well done, Javen. So that child would actually be looking, oh, miss, let me get on task. So that is basically positive narration. It actually is also like a motivation skill that you give to the learners to motivate them to actually do the correct thing without even you reprimanding them. You are not doing what you're supposed to be doing, but rather recognizing those that are doing the correct thing, and that allows the learner to self-correct.
So when you're doing the positive narration, just to clarify, are you speaking directly to the learner that is doing the right thing, or are you narrating the positive to the whole class so that they all can hear?
No, you are narrating it to the whole class so that they all can hear, because you don't want to be looking at that child who's doing the right thing, because that one is going to think, oh, I don't have the attention of my teacher anyway. So you actually saying it to the whole class without putting anybody on the spot or making anybody feel like, equal but via. Yeah.
Because kids have a tendency of becoming defensive when you particularly pick on them or you isolate them. And that defensiveness leads to fights and disagreements between you and your learners. I mean, and you start damaging that relationship between you and your class and your learners.
And you also start losing the others that were on task, because now they're watching how you and this child are going back and forth about why he or she is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So yeah.
So under what circumstances would you be using positive narration? Give us a practical example.
So I mostly use positive narration after giving clear instructions of what the learners should be doing. So it could look something like, okay, learners, please take out your mathematics writing book, write today's date and the word do now, and copy down the do now questions into your book. Then you have your one child or your group of learners who's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then instead of you saying, you're supposed to have taken out your book, you're supposed to have written the date, you simply just stand in front and you would probably say, the middle row is ready to go. They have written down the date and the do now instructions, well done. And then obviously now those learners that were now off task, they would like, oh, okay, and then they would get on task immediately. So you use it almost all the time when you want to get the attention of those learners that are actually off task, and you want to motivate them to do what they're supposed to be doing without putting them on the spot.
You said that you first gave the learners clear instructions.
Yeah.
Why are you so specific about saying that you're going to use positive narration after giving clear instructions?
So positive narration would work if learners know what it is that they're supposed to be doing. It would be difficult to use it when you haven't given learners anything to do and you expect them to know what it is that they're supposed to be doing. So it works perfectly once you have given those clear instructions and they know what it is that is expected of them. So when they correct their behavior, they know exactly what it is that they need to be doing.
Yeah. And if you think about your first couple of years of teaching, where you didn't necessarily know about positive narration, and then now more recently in the last couple of years using positive narration as a classroom management strategy, how has it changed the how has it changed the environment in your class, and what is the impact of it being?
So it has really changed my classroom environment into a more positive environment and more of a safe space for learners to actually learn. And learners respond very well to it because almost all of them want to be recognized and praised for doing something correctly. So that actually has promoted a more positive environment where even sometimes I don't need to be reprimanding the kids. They actually help me with the classroom management by correcting each other in some cases and be like, no, you're supposed to be doing this. And that is just the environment that it has created. So, and also laying out the clear expectations to the learners of how you work with them. And once they know your expectation, it's very easy to work with them, because then they want to be recognized and to be praised for those things that they are doing correctly. Yeah.
And I know that that giving clear instructions to learners and always making your expectations known to them in itself is a classroom management strategy. Because once learners know what they need to do and what your expectations are, it's easier for them to meet your expectations, but also it allows you as an educator to be able to hold them to those expectations and make them accountable to those, because you've been clear about what they are. And I said, like, you can't use positive narration without clear expectations, because what do they self-correct to if they don't know what the expectation was? So we got a question there from Tony Abrams. Tony Abrams is a family member of mine. And Tony asked, can this be used with ECD level learners too? I know that you're currently teaching grade 6, but I do know on your school property you have ECD learners. I also know that there are some ECD learners watching, ECD teachers at this time watching. So if you know more, please post the answer in the chat. But Nosito Kutezi, do you think positive narration can work with your 4 to 6 year olds as well?
I see Boss Lady has responded there for me. I think it should definitely work, and it would actually be great for it to start there. Imagine the school if we using positive narration from ages right from grade R right up until grade 7. And by the time they get to grade 4, the intermediate phase, they already know about positive narration. Your classroom environment is already a positive environment, because they've known about a positive environment since grade R. So definitely it can be used in the ECD, and it's about actually just verbalizing and saying those things that learners are doing correctly out loud, so that all the others can hear and self-correct. But most importantly, give those clear instructions to learners first, so that they know exactly what it is that they need to do in order to be able to self-correct.
If you were teaching someone and coaching someone to use positive narration, like I think Ma'am Mohammed said that she's waiting for you to coach her. If you were coaching someone, and teaching someone about positive narration, how would you guide them to implement it in your class? Because I also know when you are implementing something in the class, the kids need to be involved in it. They need to know what you're trying to achieve. So what would the conversation with the learners be around this new strategy that you are starting in your class?
Okay, so I always say that it is very difficult to discipline a child or a learner whom you do not have a relationship with. So that is the first thing I try to establish with my learners. I try to understand them. I always put out my expectation, and I ask them what they expect from me. So I would most definitely probably say to the learners, when I implement positive narration in the class, I would stand in front and say to them, grade sixes, this is what I expect of you to be doing. Please follow the instructions. And then once I see that there's some of them that are getting off task, I would actually just praise those that are doing the correct thing and correct them. Yeah. And the aim is a relationship. So it's basically the relationship with the learners is really important. And then once you have that relationship, it is easy for you to implement strategies like positive narration, because you've already created that positive environment within the class where learners are actually feeling safe. And you would be surprised, because some of them would not want to be on the side where they are in trouble with you, because they do not want to lose the relationship that you have with them. So that is how I have implemented that in the past few years.
So we also know that a lot of teachers are struggling with classroom management. What is your message to teachers who are overwhelmed by learner behavior and struggling to get to their core business? I'm not sure what's happening in my house with the sirens and the dogs. Anyway.
Be safe, Mr. Haupt. I hope you're safe. So I think the first thing I would like to say is hang in there. Hang in there. Try out things that seem impossible. And I know when I started out, you would get like ideas of what it is that you need to do. You try it today. If it's not working today, you try something else tomorrow. So I think the most important thing to do is to build this relationship with your learners, understand where they're coming from, understand who they are. And once you get to understand them and who they are, it makes it very easy. And also be consistent in what it is that you need to do. Make those expectations clear. I know what most of us would do is, when at the beginning of the year, when you put out your rules in the class, even you would write down a whole list of rules that's coming from you. Involve them in coming up with the rules in the class, so that if somebody breaks one of those rules, you are able to keep each other accountable. So that is the conversation that I always have with my learners in a new year, the rules, and keep them minimum 5 to 7 rules, so that it is easier to grasp and to remember, and have them visible in your class, and come up together as a class with the consequences. I know in my first year, that's also one of the things that I did. 10 rules, 15 rules on the board. If you do this, this is what's going to happen. But you're not asking the learners what they expect from you. You're only giving them, this is what I want, this is what I want. So it's very important to have those conversations with the learners, and even your strategies that you use, make them clear to them. Those are your expectations. This is what I'm expecting. What are you expecting from me? Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Situkutezi. So I know that there are colleagues out there that are watching that maybe wants to connect with you. How can they get hold of you if they want to have a chat, or just ask some questions around certain things? Because I must tell you, those of you that watch this is not the only strategy that Ms. Situkutezi knows and that she effectively implements in a class. She's got a whole list of them that she's very proficient in. So how could people reach out to you and get hold of you?
So Facebook, and you can inbox me on my Facebook, or you can get a hold of me on my email. those are the two ways that you could get in touch. Send me.
Okay. Ms. Sitikutezi, thank you very much for making the time this evening to have a chat with me. And I think more importantly, being open and willing to share your experiences with others, with the intention of them building their toolbox of management strategies so that teaching becomes the pleasure that it can be. So thank you very much, Ms. Sitikutezi.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Boss lady, thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks everyone that came to watch live this evening. We appreciate your support. And then next week, we'll be having a conversation with Mrs. Kaylin Hager, where she'll be chatting to us about the importance of routines.
Yay!
And impact her classroom management and how she's able to be effective and focus on the core business by putting very strategic, strong routines in place. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks again, Ms. Sitikutezi. We'll chat soon.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.